I want to follow up our discussion, rather depressing discussion of global warming. And again, one of the ways that we can offset that then is to quit using fossil fuels and go, quote unquote, go green in terms of our energy production. And I just want to briefly talk about some of the alternatives that have been talked about, because really they all have consequences. So for example, if you look at ethanol, ethanol is another alternative fuel to gasoline and so on. But the problem is that if you're going to produce ethanol, primarily it's being produced now from crops. And so if you're going to divert crops to energy production, that's going to drive up the price of food, and really has already started doing that. And also it doesn't really solve the carbon problem, because ethanol contains carbon. As you burn it, it's just going to add carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. That same problem applies to a lot of so-called waste fuels. So again, even if you're not actually using food, but using other kinds of waste to generate ethanol or other carbon-containing fuels, again, when you burn it, that's still going to contribute to the carbon problem. Cleaner solutions potentially are solar, wind, and tidal, as well as geothermal. But especially as we look at solar, wind, and tidal, to replace the kind of energy consumption that we do now, though, it's going to take a lot of that. And again, this is going to have ecological ramifications, because again, it's going to need a lot of solar. So I mean, you're going to have thousands and thousands and thousands of acres covered with solar panels. And the same would be true of wind turbines. And the same would be true of tidal generators. Again, you would have to have hundreds of miles of coastline with these little tidal generators in it, energy generators. So again, even though they're quote unquote green and they don't contribute so much to carbon, they are going to have a tremendous ecological effect. And again, it comes back to what I've mentioned a couple of times. Do we want a natural world? Can we have a natural world if we're going to continue to consume energy the way we do? Again, fuel cells as well. Fuel cells are a potential alternative here, but a lot of fuel cells that are being designed now actually are going to be deriving energy from a carbon-containing compound, maybe gasoline. And then nuclear, again, as an alternative, also has lots of potential hazards to it. And again, I don't really consider that very green. It's green in that it doesn't contribute to carbon to the atmosphere, but it generates a lot of nuclear waste that's going to be dangerous for millions of years. We don't have anywhere to put it. Also, if it's being transported from one place to the other, that's going to lead to accidents. And then there's always the problem with reactors themselves having accidents. So even the greenest of the green have potential problems. And so I think an overriding goal should also be conservation, that we want to conserve fuel and reduce fuel use and energy use in general, regardless of the type that it is. And that's probably the greenest philosophy that we could come up with. So again, I wanted to follow up a little bit, as if I wasn't depressing enough previously, to say that even our green solutions aren't necessarily that green, and there will be consequences.